So this is going to be really long-winded because there are so many fucked up things this guy did. So many that I'll leave a lot out. This all happened to me last year, and unfortunately this guy is still being a creep. So, at the time, I was 18 years old, female, and not to be arrogant, but a reasonably attractive girl. My brother and I are a similar age. He's 3 years younger, so I hang out with his friends from time to time because I get on well with all of them. This particular neckbeard was my brother's friend from college. He was skinny, rather than fat. He had an awful neckbeard, bad acne, greasy hair, and lots of piercings. I like piercings, but not overkill. Other than that, he was reasonably attractive and fun to be around. He had good fashion sense, and we had a lot in common, and since he had a nice girlfriend at the time, I didn't think I had anything to worry about. I'll just call him Neckbeard. So one day I'm bored and asking around to see who will hang out with me. Neckbeard was the only person free, and he suggested we went to the pub. I was under the impression that he was bringing his girlfriend. I'll call her Jane, but he showed up alone and said Jane was busy. No problem. I'll just have a few drinks with him. We had a nice time chatting for a few hours until he began telling me some really personal stuff about Jane, her upbringing, their relationship issues, etc. I brushed it off and figured he needed to vent to someone. Afterwards, I went home and didn't talk to him until a few days later. He messaged me and my other friend, I'll call him Harry, to come over to his house for a sleepover. I say sure, so me and Harry go to his house. His house, by the way, was absolutely disgusting. I cannot even begin to tell you how filthy and repulsive it was. The carpeted floor was absolutely drowning in dirt and bits and muck. There were dishes stacked up all over the house, mold growing on the walls, stains all over the toilet, and his bedroom was even worse. There were pizza boxes everywhere. His bed was stained and smelled gross. There was even a used condom under his computer desk. What do you expect from a neckbeard? So, anyway, me, Harry, Jane, and Neckbeard watched some TV downstairs. That's when Harry and I become really uncomfortable, because every time Jane spoke, Neckbeard immediately shut her down with a nasty remark or insult such as, "Wow, what a stupid thing to say," or, "Oh my god, shut up, no one asked." She didn't seem fazed, which made me believe she was accustomed to being talked to like that. Harry picked up on this too. At the time, my hair was silver, and I complained that I needed to touch it up as it was washing out. Neckbeard vanishes and comes downstairs with a huge bottle of high-end purple toner, which he says he doesn't need anymore because he used to have silver hair, but he let it grow out to brown again. Little did I know he already said Jane could have it because she wanted to go silver too, but he gave it to me immediately, and she never said a word. Eventually he and Jane went to bed, and Harry and I talked about how awful he was being to Jane and how filthy his house was. After that sleepover, he began texting me frequently. At first, it was things related to hair dye, or he'd send me memes that were not that funny, and I'd send a half-assed reply back because I didn't have much interest in talking to him. This only made him message more frequently until he would start a conversation every single day, offering to buy me clothes and high-end products for my hair. I complained to Harry, and he agreed that he was being seriously dodgy. I started ignoring him, and that only made him more persistent. He began inviting me and Harry out for drinks all the time. We'd go to the pub, and Neckbeard never, ever invited Jane. When we went, according to Harry, he would not even speak to him while I went to the bar or bathroom and insisted sit in silence. Neckbeard and Harry had been friends for 2 years at this point, which is why it was so weird. Then I expressed wanting to quit smoking. Next thing I knew, he bought me an e-cig and liquids to go with it. Harry jokingly complained because he also expressed wanting an e-cig, and Neckbeard's response was, "I could only afford one for OP." I tried to give him the money, but he would absolutely refuse to accept it. Once while we were out, I was cold, so Neckbeard offered me his hoodie, which was a pricey one, and when I tried to give it back, he flat out refused and said I could have it. He did the same at a later date, when he let me have his expensive jacket, and I insisted I kept it. Then out of nowhere, he announced to me that he was kicking out Jane and that he was sick of her. He told me he could not stand the sight of her. I've left out some details, but recently at that point, Neckbeard had done some really nasty and humiliating things to Jane in front of all his friends, and she just put up with it. He said that he was forcing her to move out within the month. Little context for you, Jane had no family in the surrounding area because she left her hometown to live with Neckbeard, and her family had cut her off because of it, so finding a place would be difficult for her. He continued to message me every single day, and it was getting more and more annoying. Instead of just messages, he would send big paragraphs in response to every single message I sent him. Even a blunt yes or no would result him in sending an absolute essay of writing that I would never bother reading. He continued to ask Harry and I to meet him, and things were getting more and more awkward. When Jane finally found a place and moved out, he invited me over under the pretense that he had also invited Harry, so I showed up with beers, and turns out it was just me and him. He claimed to have forgotten to invite Harry, but it would still be fun. So I got drunk, and I mean plastered, to get me through the night. This was a terrible idea because it led to a terrible decision that I will regret until I die. I slept with him. I slept with him once, and immediately after I passed out asleep. In the morning I woke up with a brutal headache, surrounded by the absolute dump of his bedroom, and him begging me to be his new girlfriend. I explained that it was a mistake, a one-night stand. I should not have done it. I promise you I was brutally honest, and told him I had no interest in pursuing anything else from him. I should not have slept with him in the first place, but all I could do now was be absolutely transparent that I was not going to be his girlfriend. He did not stop messaging me. Not only this, he'd call me crying late at night saying he hated his life and he hated Jane's guts and he wishes he was dead. He did this every single day for around 2 weeks. It got to the point where one time Harry was round at my house hanging out with my brother, and when he rang, I took the call upstairs and yelled at him to leave me alone. I was shouting so loud that they heard me downstairs. I told him I was sick of the constant mithering and pestering, that if he did not leave me alone, I was going to block him. He stopped messaging me for about 3 days until he asked Harry and I to meet him for a drink again so he could formally apologize. I agreed, but only because I felt sorry for him. This was a bad idea. He was absolutely trying to manipulate me. Harry told me that he felt completely used by him as we were on our way to the pub. He said that Neckbeard only invited him because he wanted to see me, and had absolutely no interest in meeting up with Harry without me there too. Neckbeard knew that if Harry was not there, I would not be there either. Anyway, we started drinking, and he does not apologize. He goes on a tirade about how his brother is being tested for cancer and how scared he is that he might have it. We tried to comfort him, but it seemed like he only wanted to bring it up once. After he got out of the way, he continued his usual "let's ignore Harry and talk to OP only." I'd have a few drinks, so I was making regular trips to the bathroom. Every time I left the bathroom, he was waiting outside on his phone. He kept saying he was waiting for me because he'd gone to the bathroom too. Harry told me later that Neckbeard wasn't actually going to the toilet. He would just stand there outside and wait for me to come out, leaving Harry on his own. We were about to leave when I came out of the bathroom the last time, and he stood there again. He begged me to go home with him. I said absolutely not. I was not interested, no way. He began to leave, and Harry asked me to stay at his house secretly so Neckbeard did not hear. Harry and I have always been good friends, nothing more, and have lots of sleepovers. Neckbeard kept trying to convince me to go back to his house, shamelessly, in front of Harry. I said no repeatedly, and Neckbeard brought up his brother again, complaining that he's scared he has cancer. I said sorry for his brother, I'd keep him in my thoughts, but I was not going home with him. Later on, we learned that his brother was only being tested for cancer because there was a genetic disease that his family carried, which led to everyone in that family getting tested. Neckbeard knew that his brother probably did not have cancer, as it was a standard test that all his family had taken, but he used it to try and guilt me into having sex with him. He eventually left, and Harry and I got the bus to his house. Whilst on the bus, Neckbeard rang me, still pleading with me, offering to pay for my taxi to his house. I got angry and said no and hung up. He then sent a photo which I opened in front of Harry, and it was a picture of his erect penis. Lovely. I then blocked him because I was so sick of his constant pestering and whining. He was not getting the picture, somehow, that I did not want to be with him. Fast forward to a couple of weeks. I'm enjoying a blissfully quiet end to my summer when Jane messages me. She tells me she knows what happened between Neckbeard and I. I tell her I'm sorry for sleeping with him. I was drunk and it was stupid. She then responds with, "That's no excuse for ruining my relationship." I asked what she meant, and basically Neckbeard told her that we had an affair while they were still together. The same day, I received a message from a guy I'd never spoken to calling me a slut for sleeping with Jane's boyfriend. I was absolutely ballistic. I messaged Harry, and he was just as angry. I unblocked Neckbeard and absolutely went to town on him, ripping him to shreds and forcing him to tell Jane the truth. He acted like she was the one lying at first, and afterwards said, "She's such a bitch for being mad at you. I can't believe she actually has the nerve to message you." I told him rather explicitly that he was deluded and needed to get his head tested because trying to shift the blame onto a justly upset ex was trashy and cowardly. I then blocked him again and did not speak to him for a while. Jane apologized when she realized what happened, and she and I still talk occasionally. He put that poor girl through hell, and she's so lovely and actually way too good looking for him. A full year goes by, and I do not hear anything from Neckbeard. He's blocked still, and my brother and his friends have stopped talking to him after they found out what he did to me, and especially what he did to Jane. A couple of months ago, however, he got back in touch with Harry, and they met up with their other friends. Neckbeard apologized for how he treated Harry, and that it was naive of him to waste a good friendship on a girl, me, who would break his heart. He told Harry that I had only given him a one-sided account, that I did in fact have an affair, that I slept with him on 6 different occasions, and that I constantly led him on until I was apparently exposed and then cut him off. Harry did not believe it for a second because he had been with me the whole time, but his other friends bought it and apparently gave me a whole load of abuse behind my back. Harry told me because he knew I wanted to know. Turns out Neckbeard has a new girlfriend, and I was so tempted to message her and tell her, but I did not want to stoop to his level. Instead, I messaged Neckbeard and told him to get a life pack in the lies, or I'd tell his girlfriend everything with screenshots. Then I blocked him again. The biggest creep I've ever known in my life. I hope I never see you again, NB.